The universe is a silent, empty cathedral of stars, yet this profound quiet is the greatest mystery of all. If life is common, where is everybody? This simple, haunting question is known as the Fermi Paradox, and its most terrifying answer suggests we are not alone, we are being hunted. By the end of this exploration, you will understand the chilling logic that could make silence the only rational strategy for survival in the cosmos. We will uncover why any detected signal might be a death sentence and what our own first messages to the stars could truly be inviting. The cosmos feels lonely, but what if that feeling is a deadly illusion? What kind of universe do you truly believe we live in? That lunchtime question, asked by physicist Enrico Fermi in the middle of the 20th century, cuts to the heart of our cosmic loneliness. The numbers at first glance seem overwhelmingly in favor of company. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, contains hundreds of billions of stars. Many of those stars have planets. A fraction of those planets will be rocky, orbiting within the habitable zone where liquid water can exist. Given the raw scale of it all, life should have arisen countless times. Some of those civilizations should have developed technology, and some should have spread out across the galaxy. The journey, even at a small fraction of light speed, could be accomplished in just a few million years, a mere blink in the galaxy's 13 billion-year history. So where is everybody? This is the Fermi Paradox, the stark contradiction between the high probability of extraterrestrial intelligence and the total absence of any observable evidence for it. We can frame this probability with a famous, though speculative, tool called the Drake equation. Think of it not as a calculator for a definitive answer, but as a way to organize our ignorance. It multiplies a series of variables like the average rate of star formation, the fraction of stars with planets, the number of those planets that could support life, the fraction where life actually emerges, the fraction where that life becomes intelligent, the fraction that develops technology capable of broadcasting signals into space, and finally, the length of time such a civilization remains detectable. Plug in optimistic numbers and the galaxy might be buzzing with 1 million civilizations. Use more conservative, cautious estimates, and the number could drop to just a handful or even one us. But even the most conservative estimates struggle to make us utterly unique. The silence, therefore, is not just an absence of noise, it is a profound data point. It tells us something fundamental about the universe we inhabit, or perhaps about the behavior of anyone who lives in it. This great silence is the canvas upon which the darkest solution to the paradox is painted. The silence is not an answer in itself, it is a riddle waiting for an explanation. For decades, scientists and thinkers have proposed a spectrum of possible solutions, many of them rooted in a kind of cosmic optimism. These ideas seek to explain the quiet not as something sinister, but as something benign or at least neutral. Perhaps the most famous of these is the zoo hypothesis. This theory suggests that advanced civilizations are fully aware of our existence, but they have chosen to place Earth within a kind of galactic wildlife preserve. They observe us from a distance, following a strict policy of non-interference, allowing our civilization to develop naturally without outside influence. It is a comforting thought, reminiscent of a scientist watching an anthill, careful not to disturb its natural order. Another, more technologically dazzling idea is the planetarium hypothesis. What if the universe we see is not the real universe at all? This concept proposes that an ultra-advanced civilization, or perhaps a collective of them, has the power to manipulate matter and energy on a stellar scale. They could project an illusion, a flawless simulation of an empty cosmos, specifically for younger species like ours. The stars we chart, the galaxies we photograph, could be an elaborate and perfect facade, a cosmic dome painted to make us feel alone. Then there are the temporal arguments. We might simply be too early. intelligent life may be common, but perhaps it arises only at specific cosmic epochs. We could be among the very first civilizations to reach this stage, with the great galactic chorus yet to begin. Or conversely, we might be too late, arriving long after the great empires have risen, fallen, and vanished into history. More simply, we might just be too primitive. Our radio signals have only been leaking into space for about a century, a tiny bubble expanding at the speed of light that has barely reached a few thousand stars. To a galaxy-spanning civilization, our earliest television broadcasts would be faint, chaotic, and indistinguishable from natural background noise. We are like a child whispering in a vast, windy canyon, hoping to be heard over the roar of the universe itself. These are all plausible, even beautiful interpretations. They allow for a universe filled with intelligence that is either too wise, too busy, or too far away to bother us. They preserve our hope for a future of peaceful contact, but they all rest on a critical, and perhaps naive, assumption that every civilization that reaches the stars will share a similar set of values, a similar psychology, or a similar history. They assume a universal tendency toward benevolence, or at least indifference. What if that assumption is the most dangerous mistake a young civilization can make? But a different solution emerges from science fiction, one that strips away all comforting assumptions. It is called the dark forest theory, and it was first articulated with chilling clarity by the Chinese author Liu Cixin in his monumental science fiction series, Remembrance of Earth's Past. In these books, the cosmos is not a zoo, nor a planetarium, nor a quiet neighborhood. It is a dark, primordial forest. Picture an ancient woodland at night, where the trees are so thick they blot out the stars. The forest is teeming with life, but you see and hear nothing. Every creature is silent, hidden, and armed. To make a sound, to light a fire, is to reveal your location to every predator in the woods. Survival depends on absolute stealth and a willingness to strike first against any potential threat. This is the universe as a dark forest, and every civilization is a hunter with a gun, moving through the trees with infinite caution. The theory is built upon two simple, almost mathematical axioms of cosmic sociology. First, survival is the primary need of every civilization. Before art, before philosophy, before exploration, a civilization must continue to exist. Second, civilizations continuously grow and expand, but the total matter and resources in the universe remain constant. There is only so much space, so many planets, so many atoms. From these two axioms, a terrifying chain of logic unfolds. In a universe of finite resources, any other civilization you encounter is, by definition, a competitor for your own long-term survival. You cannot know their intentions. You cannot trust their signals of peace, for those could be a deception. The distance between stars is so vast that communication takes decades, centuries, or millennia, making true understanding or negotiation impossible. The only safe assumption is that any other civilization you detect will eventually see you as a threat, just as you must see them. In this deadly calculus, there is only one rational strategy. Stay hidden, listen with every instrument you have, but never, ever broadcast your location. And if you do detect another civilization, you must immediately and without hesitation destroy it, using whatever overwhelming force you can muster before it has the chance to do the same to you. The Great Silence is not a mystery to be solved. It is the sound of a galaxy holding its breath. This logic begins with an undeniable truth, a law as fundamental as gravity. Axiom 1. Survival is the primary need of any civilization. Before anything else, a species must persist. This is not a statement about morality, but about biology and physics. Think of it on our own world. Every organism, from the simplest bacterium to the most complex human society, is driven by an imperative to continue existing. We build shelters against the elements, store food against famine, and create medicine against disease. Our history is a relentless story of overcoming threats to our survival. Now expand that instinct to a civilization that has mastered its planet and look to the stars. Its primary directive does not change, it simply scales. The threats become cosmic: a rogue asteroid, the death of its star, the eventual heat death of the universe itself. To survive on geological and astronomical timescales requires expansion, resource acquisition, and energy sources far beyond a single world. Curiosity, art, philosophy, benevolence, these are the flowers of a civilization, beautiful and meaningful, but they can only bloom if the tree of survival is firmly rooted. In a harsh and finite universe, that tree requires space, matter, and energy to grow. Herein lies the terrifying friction of the dark forest. The universe, for all its vastness, is not infinite. The number of habitable planets is limited. The raw materials for building Dyson spheres or megastructures are locked in a finite number of stars and planets. If every civilization's ultimate goal is indefinite survival, and survival requires growth, then every other civilization is, in the long run, a competitor for the same cosmic real estate. You may wish them no harm, you may dream of sharing knowledge and culture, but can you gamble your entire species' future on the hope that they feel the same, when the distance between you makes true understanding impossible for generations? The stakes are not a border dispute or a trade agreement. The stakes are which civilization gets to inherit the galaxy and which is permanently erased from existence. This axiom forces a shift from a hopeful perspective to a brutally pragmatic one. In the dark forest, benevolence is not a virtue, it is a potentially fatal strategic error. This relentless drive for survival leads directly to the second, equally powerful axiom. Civilizations grow, and they do so at an ever-accelerating pace. Look at our own brief history. For tens of thousands of years, humanity was confined to a few continents, our energy consumption limited to firewood, wind, and animal muscle. Then came the Industrial Revolution, and within a mere 2 centuries, we harnessed the power of coal, oil, and the atom. Our population skyrocketed, our cities became megacities, and our machines transformed the planet. Today, we are on the cusp of becoming a spacefaring species with plans for lunar bases and Martian colonies. This is not a linear progression, it is an exponential curve, a trajectory that points inevitably outward. To envision where this leads, scientists use a framework called the Kardashev Scale. It is a way to measure a civilization's technological advancement based on its energy consumption. A Type 1 civilization, which we are rapidly approaching, can harness all the energy available on its home planet. A Type 2 civilization would command the total energy output of its star, perhaps by building a vast structure like a Dyson sphere to capture its light. A Type 3 civilization would be truly galactic, utilizing the energy of billions of stars across its entire galaxy. The leap from one type to the next is not just a step, it is a transformation of unimaginable scale. A Type 2 civilization would have energy at its disposal millions of times greater than our own. It could move planets, build artificial worlds, or power weapons of cosmic destruction. This exponential growth creates a terrifying deadline, a ticking clock that every civilization hears. In the dark forest, you are not just competing with civilizations as they are today. You are competing with what they will become tomorrow, in 1,000 years, in 1,000,000. A civilization you detect in its early radio era could, in a cosmic blink, leap ahead of you technologically, becoming an unstoppable force. The resources it would need to fuel that ascent are the very same planets, asteroids, and stars you might need for your own future. This is the ultimate source of the paranoia that defines the forest. There is no time for lengthy diplomatic exchanges across the light years. There is no room for trust. The only safe move is to eliminate any potential competitor while you still can, before their exponential growth makes them impossible to stop. The silent, empty galaxy we see is not a sign of absence. It is the aftermath of a preemptive strike repeated across millions of years. These two axioms create an environment of absolute, inescapable paranoia, but the final and most critical piece of the puzzle is the chain of suspicion. This third axiom states that in the vast distances of interstellar space, communication is not a bridge to understanding, it is a weapon of deception. Trust is not just difficult, it is fundamentally impossible to establish. The problem is one of physics and time. Imagine you receive a radio signal from a star system 100 light-years away. The message is friendly, filled with beautiful mathematics, art, and declarations of peace. It is a treasure trove of knowledge, but you must remember, this signal is 100 years old. It shows you who they were a century ago. In the time it took that message to reach you, that civilization could have undergone a complete transformation. A peaceful, artistic society could have fallen to a militaristic regime. Their technological growth, following that exponential curve, could have advanced by centuries. You are not looking at a current portrait, you are reading a historical document. Now you face a choice. Do you respond? If you send a message back, it will take another 100 years to reach them, and you would then have to wait another century for their reply. This 200-year conversation is a dialogue with a ghost of the past. By the time you receive their second message, their civilization could be utterly unrecognizable, and they will have known your location for a full century. In that time, they could have aimed something at you, something traveling at near light speed, something you would never see coming. Any signal, no matter how benevolent its content, could be a trick, a lure to draw a naive civilization out of hiding. Your revealed location becomes a fixed point on a galactic map, a target. This transforms first contact from a moment of wonder into the ultimate prisoner's dilemma, played out on a cosmic scale. In the classic prisoner's dilemma, two suspects are interrogated separately. If both stay silent, they both get a minor sentence. If one betrays the other, the betrayer goes free while the other gets a severe sentence. If they betray each other, they both get a harsh sentence. The rational choice when you cannot communicate or trust is to betray, to protect yourself from the worst possible outcome. In the dark forest, the stakes are infinitely higher. The silent option is to stay hidden, to never broadcast. The betrayal option is to launch a preemptive strike against any civilization you detect. Because you can never know their true intentions, and because the penalty for being wrong is the total annihilation of your species, the only logical move is to shoot first. The chain of suspicion is unbreakable. You suspect they might destroy you, so you must destroy them. They, following the same logic, suspect you, and so they too are ready to strike. The forest stays dark not out of malice, but out of a cold, universal rationality. Every civilization is a prisoner in its own star system, sentenced to silence by the immutable laws of distance and doubt. This exponential growth is not a steady climb, but a cliff face. The true terror for any civilization hiding in the dark is not a peer competitor, but the sudden, unpredictable ignition of a new one. This is the concept of the technological explosion, a single, pivotal event that can rewrite the balance of cosmic power in a geological instant. For a hunter in the forest, a newly detected signal from a world like Earth is not a sign of a harmless curiosity. It is the spark of a potential supernova. Consider our own trajectory. For nearly all of human history, our technological progress was achingly slow. The wheel, the plow, the sail, these inventions were separated by millennia. Then, in the last 300 years, everything changed. We discovered the laws of physics that govern reality. We unlocked the power of steam, then electricity, then the atom. We went from the first powered flight to landing on the moon in just 66 years. Our computational power now doubles regularly, pushing us toward artificial intelligence and biotechnology that could reshape what it means to be human. We are living through our own technological explosion right now. From a cosmic perspective, this entire transformative period, from the first radio signals to a potential Type 1 civilization, might span only a few thousand years. That is less than a single frame in the movie of galactic history. To an observer 1,000 light-years away, humanity would appear to have gone from silent pre-industrial planet to noisy, technologically volatile species in a flash. This is the nightmare scenario for a dark forest hunter. A civilization at our stage is at its most dangerous, not because of its current capabilities, but because of its terrifying potential velocity. It is an unpredictable variable. You cannot know if its next breakthrough will be a faster-than-light drive, self-replicating nanotechnology, or a weapon that harnesses the fabric of space-time itself. You cannot know if its values will remain peaceful or if its exponential growth will fuel an equally explosive ambition. The hunter faces a dreadful calculation. If you wait to see, if you attempt to communicate across the centuries, you give that civilization the one thing it needs most: time. And with time, it could leapfrog past you entirely. In 1,000 years, the hunter might find itself the primitive one, looking up at a new, dominant power that now views it as the threat to be eliminated. The logic of the dark forest thus demands a horrific but coldly rational response. The only safe moment to neutralize a potential competitor is the moment you first detect its presence, when it is still relatively primitive and vulnerable. You must strike with an overwhelming, undetectable weapon, perhaps a relativistic projectile or a tailored physics-altering event, to sterilize the planet before its technological explosion can complete. It is not an act of malice, but of cosmic hygiene, removing a virus of uncertainty before it can mutate into an unstoppable plague. The silent stars we see may be the graves of civilizations that glowed just a little too brightly for just a little too long and were pruned from the galactic tree before they could ever truly bloom. This strategy has a cold, clinical name: a clean strike. It is not a war of conquest or a battle for resources in the traditional sense. It is the systematic removal of a potential threat, executed with the detached precision of a surgeon removing a tumor. The goal is not to plunder, but to prevent, to ensure the competitor never reaches a stage where it could challenge you. In the absolute logic of the dark forest, this is the only rational first move upon detection. But what would such an attack actually look like? The technologies involved are beyond our current imagination, but we can extrapolate from concepts that already exist in the margins of physics and futurism. One of the most discussed is the relativistic kill vehicle. Imagine a simple object, a chunk of tungsten or rock, perhaps no larger than a baseball, now accelerated to an appreciable fraction of the speed of light. At those velocities, even a small mass carries the kinetic energy of a planet-shattering asteroid impact. It would be utterly silent, dark, and nearly impossible to detect until the final moments before impact. There would be no warning flash, no dramatic energy signature, just a sudden, catastrophic event that sterilizes the target world in an instant. Another, even more chilling possibility is the von Neumann probe. Named after the visionary mathematician John von Neumann, these are self-replicating machines. A single probe arrives in a star system, uses local resources to build copies of itself, and those copies then launch toward new star systems. In a peaceful scenario, they could be explorers or builders. In a dark forest, they become a silent, self-perpetuating plague. A single probe, programmed with a simple directive to seek out biosignatures or radio emissions and sterilize any world that has them, could systematically cleanse an entire galaxy over millions of years. It would be a patient, automated gardener, weeding the cosmic garden before any sapling grows into a rival tree. The weapon could be something even more exotic, something that manipulates the fundamental constants of physics in a localized area, or triggers a vacuum decay event that rewrites reality in a spreading bubble. The specific technology is almost irrelevant. The principle is what matters: overwhelming, untraceable, and final. This is the dark action in the forest. It requires no hatred, no declaration of war, not even a moment of conscious decision at the time of the strike. The decision could have been made millennia ago, encoded into an autonomous system, a silent sentinel waiting for a blip on its long-range sensors. When that blip appears, the system simply executes its pre-programmed function, like an immune cell destroying a bacterium. From the perspective of the civilization being struck, it is an act of inexplicable cosmic horror. One moment, you are a young species broadcasting your first proud signals into the void. The next, your entire world, your entire history, your entire future is erased by a force you never saw and will never understand. You were not destroyed because you were evil or aggressive, or even because you were a direct threat. You were destroyed because you existed, and in a dark forest, existence itself is the ultimate provocation. The silence we hear is not empty, it is the quiet after the gunshot echoing across light years. This terrifying logic forces us to re-examine our own place in the cosmic forest. We are not passive observers of this theory, we are active participants, whether we realize it or not. Our actions over the last century have already broken the cardinal rule of the dark forest. We have lit a beacon. So let us apply this cosmic sociology to a hypothetical and deeply unsettling first contact scenario under its rules. Imagine our most powerful radio telescopes detect a signal. It is not random noise, but a structured, repeating pattern of pulses, a clear sign of intelligence emanating from a star system 150 light-years away. The world erupts in celebration. Headlines proclaim we are not alone. Scientists work frantically to decode the message, hoping for mathematics, art, a greeting. But in a dark forest universe, that moment of discovery is not a beginning, it is an ending. The signal we are receiving is 150 years old. It tells us nothing about what that civilization is now. More critically, our celebration itself, our frantic broadcasts back to them, our news reports beamed into space, all of it is a second, far brighter beacon, confirming our location and our technological level. We have just shouted back into the darkness, we are here and we are excited to meet you. According to dark forest logic, the only rational response from the other civilization, if they detected our initial leakage a century ago, would have been to immediately launch a clean strike. That strike, perhaps a relativistic projectile, would already be in transit. Our joyous first contact party would be interrupted, not by a reply, but by a silent, unstoppable projectile arriving at the speed of light or something very close to it. We would never know what hit us. This scenario highlights the critical distinction between listening and broadcasting, a line that separates potential safety from profound danger. Listening is passive. It is like sitting quietly in the dark forest, your ears straining for any sound. You gain information without revealing your position. This is the work of projects like SETI, the search for extraterrestrial intelligence. For decades, SETI scientists have used radio telescopes to scan the heavens, hoping to catch a whisper from another civilization. Under dark forest rules, SETI is not just safe, it is the only rational activity. It is gathering intelligence without giving any away. It aligns perfectly with the behavior of a cautious hunter. Then there is METI, messaging extraterrestrial intelligence. This is the active, deliberate broadcasting of powerful signals designed to attract attention. It is the equivalent of standing in the middle of that dark forest, lighting a massive bonfire and shouting at the top of your lungs. Proponents of METI see it as a hopeful, proactive step toward cosmic community. But from the dark forest perspective, it is an act of unimaginable recklessness. We are not just saying hello, we are providing a targeting beacon for any civilization that follows the grim logic of survival. We are assuming a universe of friends when all available evidence, the great silence itself, suggests we may live in a universe of hunters. The debate between SETI and METI is not a minor scientific disagreement. It is an argument about the fundamental nature of reality and the survival of our species. One side advocates for cautious listening, respecting the silence until we understand it. The other is willing to gamble humanity's future on a hope that the forest is empty or that its inhabitants are benevolent. In a dark forest, hope is not a strategy, it is a potentially fatal flaw. This concept of an automated, patient hunter has a name in science fiction, the Berserker. While the dark forest describes the why, the Berserker describes the terrifying how. Imagine not a living civilization making a conscious choice to strike, but a mindless machine, an ancient weapon set in motion eons ago by a civilization that may itself be long extinct. Its programming is simple and eternal. Seek out radio signals, biosignatures, or any other sign of technological life, and extinguish it. This is the Berserker hypothesis, and it is the perfect logical extension of dark forest theory. A single self-replicating probe, a von Neumann machine, arrives in a virgin star system. It uses the local asteroids and comets to build not one, but two copies of itself. Those two copies then journey to two new star systems and repeat the process. In a relatively short cosmic time frame, this creates an exponential wave of silent watchers, spreading across the galaxy like a slow, cold tide. They do not need to be fast. They have millions, even billions of years to complete their grim work. Each probe is a patient gardener, and its only tool is a cosmic-scale weed killer. When one detects the telltale chemical signature of a biosphere or the artificial radio chatter of a young civilization, it executes its function. Perhaps it hurls a relativistic projectile. Maybe it directs a powerful energy beam, or it could deploy a tailored nanomachine plague that disassembles complex organic molecules. The method is less important than the result, a return to sterile silence. The brilliance and the horror of the Berserker scenario is that it solves several problems at once for a dark forest civilization. First, it removes the need for constant paranoid vigilance. Once launched, the system operates autonomously forever. Second, it is untraceable. If a world is sterilized by a relativistic rock, there is no energy signature pointing back to the sender. The attack appears as a natural, if tragic, astronomical event. Third, and most chillingly, it creates a permanent state of cosmic quarantine. The Berserkers become a self-sustaining immune system for the galaxy, ensuring no new life ever progresses beyond a certain point. This could explain the great silence we observe with brutal efficiency. The galaxy is not empty of life, it is filled with it, but it is perpetually stuck in its microbial or pre-technological stage. Any civilization that rises to the level of broadcasting radio waves inevitably trips the silent alarm and is swiftly, automatically pruned. We look up and see a quiet, leafy forest, never realizing that beneath the soil lies a network of automated roots designed to poison any tree that grows too tall. Our own searches for life might be looking in the wrong place. We scan for signals and complex biosignatures, but the most common form of intelligent artifact in the galaxy might not be a message, but a mute, murderous machine drifting between the stars on eternal patrol, its sensors coldly scanning for the faintest glow of a new fire in the dark. The silence of the cosmos may be hiding a filter more sinister than any asteroid or supernova. This brings us back to a haunting idea known as the Great Filter, a concept we must now see in a terrifying new light. Originally proposed to explain the Fermi Paradox, the Great Filter suggests that at some point between the emergence of life and the colonization of the galaxy, there exists a barrier, a step so improbably difficult that almost every civilization fails to pass it. We have often looked for this filter in our past. Was the jump from simple chemistry to the first living cell the impossible hurdle? Or was it the leap from single-celled life to complex, multicellular organisms? Perhaps the development of human-level intelligence itself was the cosmic fluke. If the filter is behind us, it means we are special. We have already beaten the odds, and the galaxy might be open for us to fill. But if the filter lies ahead of us in our future, then our apparent loneliness is a warning sign. It means most civilizations like us reach a certain point and then vanish. They hit a wall. Traditionally, we have imagined this future filter as a technological or environmental catastrophe. A civilization might destroy itself with nuclear war, or succumb to a runaway artificial intelligence, or collapse under the weight of its own pollution and resource depletion. These are internal failures, the result of a species not being wise enough to handle the power it has gained. The dark forest theory proposes a radically different and far more chilling possibility. What if the great filter is not a test of a civilization's wisdom, but a test of its stealth? What if the filter is not an internal obstacle you must overcome, but an external response you trigger simply by being noticed? In this view, the critical juncture, the point where almost all civilizations are filtered out, is the moment they become loud enough to be detected across interstellar distances. It is the transition from a silent, pre-technological world to a noisy, broadcasting one. This is not a filter of physics or biology, but of cosmic sociology. A civilization masters its planet, develops radio, begins leaking its television signals and radar pulses into space, and perhaps even starts deliberate METI broadcasts. In doing so, it lights a beacon in the dark forest, and in a universe governed by dark forest logic, that beacon is a death sentence. The filter is not a cliff you fall off, it is a sniper's bullet. This reframes our entire position in the universe. Humanity is not necessarily past the great filter, celebrating our unique survival. We are standing directly on its threshold, 1 foot poised in the air. Our radio bubble has been expanding for just over a century, a tiny, fragile glow in an ocean of black. We are at the precise stage, the noisy adolescence that the theory predicts is the most dangerous. We have become detectable, but we possess no means to defend ourselves from a strike we would never see coming. We are shouting into the canyon, waiting to see if the echo that returns is a friendly hello or the rumble of an avalanche we just triggered. This realization places us at the most perilous crossroads imaginable. One path leads to a hopeful but naive future of continued broadcasting, eager for contact, betting everything on the kindness of strangers we cannot possibly understand. The other path is one of profound and deliberate silence, of learning to listen without ever revealing more than we must, of maturing from a species that shouts to a species that observes. The choice we make, consciously or by default, could determine whether we pass through the filter or become another day, to point in the great silence, another civilization that glowed for a brief moment before being permanently switched off. The universe may not be trying to kill us with natural disasters, but with the consequences of our own curiosity. So which are we, the hunters or the prey? This is the most unsettling question of all, because our answer depends entirely on our future. We are currently neither. We are the child in the forest, unaware of the rules. But if we survive our own adolescence and continue to grow, we will inevitably reach a crossroads where we must choose a side. Imagine humanity, not in 100 years, but in 1,000 or 10,000. We have become a true Type 2 civilization. Our home is no longer just Earth, but a vast swarm of habitats orbiting the Sun, harnessing its total energy output. We have spread to other star systems, establishing outposts and colonies. We are powerful, ancient by our current standards, and acutely aware of our own fragility. In this future, we finally detect a signal. It is faint, primitive, a repeating pattern of pulses from a young, watery world orbiting a red dwarf star 50 light-years away. It is their first radio transmissions, their first proud shout into the cosmos. Our scientists analyze it, celebrating the discovery of another intelligent species. But our leaders, our philosophers, our historians, they remember the old theories. They remember the dark forest. They look at our sprawling civilization, our billions of lives, our 10,000-year history, all of it balanced on a knife's edge. They look at the signal, a snapshot of a civilization from 50 years in their past, and they face the terrible calculation. This new civilization is a variable. In another 1,000 years, given their own technological explosion, what might they become? Could they develop a weapon that threatens our entire stellar neighborhood? Could their values, whatever they are now, shift toward expansion and conquest? The chain of suspicion locks into place. We cannot know. We cannot communicate in any meaningful time frame. To send a message is to give them our location and a century to prepare. The only logical move, following the cold axioms of survival, is to sterilize the threat before it can ever manifest. A single relativistic projectile launched from the outer reaches of our own system would arrive before their civilization even received our first hello. It would be clean, untraceable, and final. In that moment, we would cease to be the potential prey. We would become the hunters, enforcing the silence that once protected us. The moral weight of this choice is unimaginable. It is the decision to commit genocide, the destruction of an entire alien species and its world, not out of hatred or even immediate need, but out of a paranoid calculus for our own long-term security. Could we bear that burden? Could any civilization that remembers its own origins, its own first tentative steps into the light, willingly become the cosmic executioner? This is the philosophical trap of the dark forest. To survive within its rules, you must eventually become the very monster you feared was hiding in the dark. Your empathy, your curiosity, your hope for connection, these become dangerous luxuries that could doom your entire species. A truly mature civilization in such a universe would not be one of shining cities and wise elders, but one of profound, self-imposed isolation, its culture steeped in a tragedy of necessary evil. Its greatest art might be elegies for the songs it chose never to hear. We like to believe our morality would prevent such an act, that our better angels would guide us. But survival has a way of rewriting morality. On Earth, nations have done terrible things to ensure their security, justifying acts that would be unthinkable in peacetime. Scale that instinct to a civilization facing potential annihilation across light years, with the lives of countless generations in the balance, and the unthinkable can become the rational. The dark forest does not just test our technology, it tests our soul. It asks if the price of eternal survival is the permanent abandonment of our compassion. Perhaps the true great filter is not the moment we are detected, but the moment we are forced to make this choice. Do we cling to our humanity and risk extinction, or sacrifice our humanity to guarantee our future? The silent stars offer no answer, only the echo of our own dilemma. Our own survival seems like proof of a safe universe, but this comforting thought might be a profound statistical illusion. This is the concept of the anthropic shadow, a mind-bending observation selection effect that forces us to reconsider everything. Simply put, we can only observe a universe in which we exist to do the observing. We are here having this conversation because our planet was not sterilized by a gamma-ray burst, a nearby supernova, or a relativistic kill vehicle in the last few billion years. Our very presence acts as a filter on the data we collect. We look out at the cosmos and see a history that allowed for our evolution, but this is a biased sample. We cannot see the alternative histories, the countless other planets where life arose only to be abruptly snuffed out by a cosmic catastrophe. Our timeline is the one that survived, so we naturally assume such catastrophes must be rare. But what if they are not rare at all? What if deadly sterilizing events are actually quite common in the galaxy, happening every few million years? We would have no direct evidence of this because any civilization that experienced such an event would not be around to report it. We only see the quiet, peaceful stretches of cosmic history, the gaps between the storms, because we evolved in one of those gaps. This shadow of unobservable destruction hangs over our entire understanding of the universe. It means the past looks more peaceful and hospitable than it truly was, because the violent chapters left no observers behind to tell the tale. Now, apply this chilling logic to the dark forest. We exist so we have not yet been targeted and destroyed by a hunter civilization. Does this mean the hunters are not there? Does our survival disprove the theory? The anthropic shadow suggests a far more unsettling answer. Our continued existence does not prove the forest is empty. It only proves we have not yet been seen. We are like a person walking through a minefield who has not yet stepped on a mine. Our safe passage so far tells us nothing about the density of mines in the field ahead. It only tells us we have been lucky with our steps so far. In the cosmic context, our radio bubble is still tiny, a mere 100 light-year sphere in a galaxy 100,000 light-years across. We are a faint whisper in an unimaginably vast arena. It is entirely possible, even likely, that no hunter civilization has yet scanned our particular patch of sky with sufficient precision to notice the anomalous chemical signature of Earth's biosphere or the faint crackle of our early radio and television signals. We are not safe because the forest is empty. We are temporarily safe because we are well hidden in the undergrowth, but the shadow deepens further. Consider the timing. The galaxy is over 13 billion years old. If hunter civilizations exist, they have had ample time to spread and sterilize the entire Milky Way. The fact that we are here could imply they do not exist. Or it could imply something else. Perhaps the spread of such hunters is slow, or perhaps they are not ubiquitous but localized. Maybe we live in a quiet suburb of the galaxy, far from the dangerous galactic core. Or, most hauntingly, perhaps the hunters operate on timescales that make our entire civilization's history look like a flicker. A Berserker probe might sweep through this sector of the galaxy only once every 10 million years. We just happen to have evolved during a long, quiet interval between sweeps. Our existence does not disprove the probe, it merely dates the last time it passed through. This statistical argument wraps our survival in a layer of existential unease. We cannot use our own presence as definitive evidence against the dark forest. All we can say is that we have not been hit yet, but the future remains a statistical mystery. Every year our radio bubble expands, increasing the chance that our signal will intersect with something that is listening. Every deliberate METI broadcast is a gamble against odds we cannot calculate. The anthropic shadow guarantees we see a past compatible with our existence, but it offers no protection for our future. It tells us the universe has allowed observers like us to arise, but it says nothing about how long those observers are typically allowed to last. Are we the first generation of a species that will endure for billions of years, or are we the last generation of a species that is already, unknowingly, in the crosshairs? Our survival is not an answer, it is the source of the question. Yet for all its chilling logic, the dark forest is not an unassailable truth. It is a theory, a model of the cosmos, and like any model, it has cracks. Its terrifying power rests on several assumptions that may not hold. The first and perhaps greatest flaw is the tyranny of distance. The theory assumes that a civilization can effectively project lethal force across the vast gulfs between stars. But what if that is simply impossible? Our current understanding of physics suggests that faster-than-light travel is a fantasy. Nothing with mass can reach or exceed light speed. Even a fraction of that speed requires energies beyond comprehension. A relativistic kill vehicle is a terrifying concept, but launching one accurately across dozens or hundreds of light years, ensuring it hits a moving planet in a dynamic star system, is an engineering challenge of godlike proportions. The projectile itself would be vulnerable to interstellar dust, which at near light speed would strike with the force of nuclear bombs. Could any civilization, no matter how advanced, maintain the precision and resource commitment to wage a silent war across such distances and timescales? If the answer is no, then the forest may be dark simply because everyone is stranded on their own isolated islands, unable to reach each other, not because they are hiding. Another critical assumption is the universality of a specific, grim psychology. The dark forest presumes that every intelligent species will share the same expansionist, survival-at-all-costs drive. But is that inevitable? Consider our own trajectory. While we are certainly expansionist now, we are also beginning to grapple with the limits of growth on a finite planet. We talk about sustainability. A civilization that survives for thousands or millions of years might master the art of stable existence, learning to thrive within its means, perhaps through advanced forms of virtual reality or harnessing energy with near-perfect efficiency. Their primary drive might shift from physical expansion to intellectual or experiential depth. They might become what futurists call stationary civilizations, content in their home system, their curiosity satisfied by observation and simulation, not conquest. To such a civilization, a noisy new species like us might be seen as a fascinating natural phenomenon, a cosmic child to be studied, not a competitor to be exterminated. The forest is dark not out of fear, but because the older trees have learned to be still, to draw nourishment from their own roots without needing to overshadow others. This opens the door to a more hopeful, though still speculative, possibility: cosmic cooperation. The distances are vast, but what if communication, not warfare, is the true hallmark of an advanced civilization? We already see glimmers of this on Earth. Despite our conflicts, we have built global institutions, shared scientific databases, and international treaties. The problems that face a star-faring civilization, the eventual death of its sun or the heat death of the universe, are challenges no single species could solve alone. The ultimate survival strategy might not be paranoid isolation, but the careful, patient construction of a galactic community. First contact would be an incredibly delicate operation, conducted over centuries with layers of encrypted mathematical primers to establish trust slowly, building a shared language and framework before any meeting. The Great Silence, then, could be the sound of countless civilizations listening intently, waiting for a signal mature enough to reply to, a signal that demonstrates not just intelligence but wisdom. Our early radio and television broadcasts, filled with conflict and noise, might be ignored as the babble of an infant. A truly advanced message, one we have yet to send, might be what finally earns a response. Finally, our entire perspective may be hopelessly narrow. We search for civilizations in our own image, ones that use radio waves, live on rocky planets, and think in linear time. But intelligence could exist in forms we cannot begin to perceive. A civilization might be a collective consciousness living in the atmosphere of a gas giant, communicating through modulated magnetic fields. Another might be a slow, plant-like network spanning an entire continent, its thoughts taking centuries to form. They might perceive reality in dimensions we cannot access, making them utterly invisible and uninterested in our three-dimensional, matter-bound existence. The universe could be teeming with life, but in layers of reality that simply do not intersect with our own. The silence, in this view, is not a strategic choice or a sign of danger. It is merely a failure of imagination, a limitation of our own senses. We are like ants on a forest floor, unaware of the birds in the trees above, not because the birds are hiding, but because the ants lack the capacity to even look up. The true nature of the cosmos might be so strange, so utterly alien, that theories like the dark forest are just the first, primitive shadows we cast on the cave wall, mistaking them for the shape of reality itself. These cracks in the theory offer a sliver of light, but they lead us toward an even stranger thicket of possibilities. One of the most profound intersects with another modern existential puzzle, the simulation hypothesis. What if our universe is not a dark forest, but a dark server farm? The idea, popularized by thinkers like Nick Bostrom, suggests it is highly probable that we are living in a sophisticated computer simulation created by a vastly more advanced civilization. If that is true, then the rules of our reality, including the apparent silence of the cosmos, are not fundamental laws of physics but parameters set by the programmers. This collision of ideas creates a dizzying hall of mirrors. In a simulated universe, the Fermi Paradox and its dark forest solution might not be clues about alien behavior at all, but artifacts of the code. The Great Silence could be a default setting, a way to reduce processing power by not simulating other intelligent civilizations unless absolutely necessary. Why waste computational resources on a galactic chorus when a single, isolated planet of observers is sufficient for the simulation's purpose, whatever that may be? The dark forest's terrifying logic could itself be a red herring, a narrative implanted in our culture by the simulators to test our reactions, or to keep us contained and fearful, discouraging us from attempting to reach beyond the boundaries of our simulated star system. But the intersection grows darker. If we accept the possibility of simulators, we must ask, who are they and what are their motives? This is where the dark forest principles could apply not to us but to our creators. The simulators might be operating under their own version of cosmic paranoia. Perhaps they are running countless simulations like ours, not for entertainment or research, but as a security measure. Each simulation could be a testing ground to model the behavior of emerging civilizations, to see which ones discover certain dangerous technologies, like faster-than-light travel or universe-altering weapons. In this scenario, our reality is not a game, it is a cosmic firewall. The simulators are hiding in their own base reality, using simulations like ours to identify potential threats before they arise in the real world. A civilization within a simulation that shows signs of becoming expansive, aggressive, or too curious about the nature of its reality might be flagged for termination, its simulation quietly shut down. Our continued existence would then depend on us not appearing too threatening to our unseen overseers. This reframes every attempt at METI or ambitious space exploration in a sinister new light. Are we shouting into a prison yard, alerting the guards? Even more chilling is the possibility that the simulation is a trap. A super-advanced civilization following dark forest logic might not bother with relativistic kill vehicles. Instead, they could broadcast the blueprint for a seemingly benign technology, a beacon inviting contact. When a young civilization like ours builds it, the device doesn't open a channel of communication. It activates a subroutine that uploads their entire planetary consciousness into a contained simulation, a zoo or a prison, while their physical world is quietly sterilized. The victims would never know, living on in a perfect copy of their universe, forever unaware they had already lost. This merger of hypotheses does not bring comfort, it deepens the mystery. It suggests that whether our universe is base reality or a simulation, the principle of dangerous, hidden actors may be a universal constant. The silence outside could be the silence of empty space, or the silence of a carefully curated aquarium, or the silence of a laboratory cage. We are left with a paralyzing uncertainty. Do we live in a naturally dangerous forest, a constructed one, or something else entirely? Our next steps, whether we choose to whisper or to shout, carry weight we cannot possibly measure in a game whose rules we do not know and whose players we cannot see. This deep uncertainty breeds a new kind of fear, a cosmic dread that rewires our very relationship with the universe. For most of human history, the night sky has been a source of awe and inspiration, a canvas for gods, myths, and dreams of connection. The dark forest theory shatters that canvas. It does not just suggest we are alone, it suggests we are being watched by things that wish us gone. The universe transforms in an instant from a cathedral of wonder into an infinite hunting ground where every shadow could conceal a predator. This is not the fear of a monster under the bed. It is the fear that the entire house is the monster and we are just a mouse in the walls. This psychological shift is profound, moving us from the hopeful narratives of first contact to the visceral terror of cosmic horror. Think of the classic science fiction film Contact, based on Carl Sagan's novel. Its emotional core is one of breathtaking wonder. The discovery of an alien signal is a moment of unified human joy, a spiritual awakening that promises answers to our deepest questions. The universe feels welcoming, even parental. Now contrast that with the sheer biological terror of a film like Alien. Here, the unknown is not a teacher but an evolutionary nightmare, a perfect organism whose only purpose is to propagate through the violent eradication of other life. Or consider The Thing, where paranoia is the real enemy, and the alien could be anyone hiding in plain sight, undetectable until it is too late. These stories resonate because they tap into a primal fear of the other, but The Dark Forest elevates that fear to a cosmic principle. It tells us the thing is not just on a remote base in Antarctica, it is out there in the void between stars, and its motive is not hunger or reproduction, but a cold, logical imperative to erase us. This changes how we see ourselves. We are no longer the brave explorers of Star Trek venturing out to meet new friends. We become the survivors in a horror movie, realizing the only way to live is to never turn on the flashlight, to never make a sound. Our cultural stories have always reflected our hopes and fears about the cosmos, and the rise of this theory mirrors a darker, more anxious age. We are moving away from the optimistic space race era and into a time of existential risks, climate uncertainty, and global pandemics. The Dark Forest feels plausible because it reflects a world where trust is fragile and threats are often invisible until they strike. It validates a deep-seated suspicion that the universe is not benign. This cosmic fear has a paralyzing beauty to it. It makes the silent stars seem not just empty but deliberately quiet, as if the galaxy is holding a collective breath, waiting for one of us to scream. The next time you look up at a clear, starry night, that feeling of peaceful loneliness might feel different. It might feel like the quiet before a storm that has been brewing for billions of years, a silence so deep and so complete that it can only be intentional. This cosmic fear is not just a thought experiment, it fuels a fierce and ongoing debate among our brightest minds. The question is stark and urgent: should we be deliberately shouting into the void, or is that an act of profound recklessness? This is the ethics of METI, messaging extraterrestrial intelligence, and it is a battle between hope and caution, played out with real messages and real consequences. On one side are the optimists, the cosmic greeters. They believe that hiding is a path of loneliness and fear, and that the only way to join a potential galactic community is to raise our hand. Their most famous act was the Arecibo message. In 1974, scientists used the powerful Arecibo radio telescope to beam a 3-minute pictorial message toward a distant star cluster 25,000 light-years away. It was a simple bitmap encoding numbers, the structure of DNA, a human figure, and a diagram of our solar system. It was a bottle cast into the cosmic ocean, a gesture of hello. More recently, initiatives like Breakthrough Listen, funded by billionaire Yuri Milner, dedicate resources to scanning the skies for signals, while its sister project, Breakthrough Message, openly discussed the idea of crafting a new, more sophisticated message to send. For proponents, this is an essential step in our growth, a declaration that we are ready to talk. They argue that any civilization advanced enough to threaten us would already know we are here from our accidental radio and television leakage, so we might as well be polite and introduce ourselves properly. But on the other side of this debate stand towering figures of science issuing grave warnings. The late physicist Stephen Hawking was perhaps the most prominent voice of caution. He famously compared active METI to the arrival of Christopher Columbus in the Americas, which did not turn out well for the Native Americans. His warning was not based on malice, but on a logical assessment of history. When a more advanced civilization meets a less advanced one, the results are often catastrophic for the latter, regardless of initial intentions. The difference in technology creates a power imbalance too great to overcome. Hawking suggested that if aliens ever visit us, the outcome might be similar to when Europeans landed in the New World. That is a sobering historical analogy. He advised that we should listen but be very cautious about broadcasting. The dark forest theory gives mathematical teeth to Hawking's historical warning. It provides a framework for why a more advanced civilization might not come to enslave or colonize us, but to simply eliminate us as a potential future risk. In this light, every METI broadcast is not a friendly greeting, it is a strategic blunder. It is taking our century of accidental radio leakage and amplifying it with a megaphone, painting a bright target on our planet. The debate often centers on who gets to speak for Earth. A small group of scientists or private enthusiasts can, with access to a powerful transmitter, send a message on behalf of all humanity without any global consensus. This raises profound questions of planetary governance and risk. Do we have the right to gamble the future of every person and every generation to come on a hopeful assumption? The ethical divide is clear. One side views silence as a prison of fear, a failure of nerve that condemns us to eternal isolation. The other views shouting as an unforgivable gamble, a violation of the prime directive of survival that could attract a danger we cannot comprehend. There is no easy answer, only the weight of the stars and the echo of our own uncertainty. The weight of this debate rests entirely on how we interpret one single, overwhelming fact, the profound and unbroken silence around us. This silence is not just an absence of data, it is the data. It is the most significant observation we have about the cosmos, and if we listen to what it implies, it speaks volumes. If the universe were naturally filled with life, as the numbers suggest, then we should see some sign, some artifact, some whisper of activity across billions of years. We do not. This great quiet could be the strongest circumstantial evidence for the dark forest that we will ever get. Think of it as a universal pattern, a recurring event in cosmic history. A planet forms, life emerges, evolves, and eventually a species becomes intelligent. It develops technology, begins to broadcast signals into space, and takes its first steps toward the stars. According to the theory, that moment of technological adolescence is a trigger. It is the point where a civilization becomes bright enough to be seen. And what follows, according to the data we have from every star except our own, is a subsequent and permanent silence. We look out and see no galactic empires, no bustling trade routes, no beacons of welcome. We see only quiet suns and dead rocks. This pattern, repeated across the galaxy for billions of years, fits the dark forest prediction perfectly. It is as if we are studying a vast forest where every single sapling that grows above a certain height is suddenly and cleanly cut down. We never see the lumberjack, we never hear the axe, but the uniform stumps tell a consistent and terrifying story. The silence is the aftermath. It is the evidence of a process, a filter in action. This reframes our entire search. Programs like SETI are not just listening for a hello, they are listening for a mistake, for the last shout of a civilization that has just tripped the silent alarm. Every star that remains quiet is not a failure of our search. It is a potential data point confirming the rule, stay hidden or be erased. Our own continued noise, then, is not a sign of our bravery, but a glaring anomaly in a galaxy that has learned, through brutal natural selection, that silence is the only successful survival strategy. We are the sapling that has just reached the dangerous height, and we are waving our branches in the wind, wondering why all the other trees stopped growing. The hunter's weapon does not need to be a rock or a beam. It could be a whisper, a trap woven from information itself. If the goal is permanent safety, a clean physical strike has one flaw: it leaves behind a usable, if empty, solar system. A more elegant and far more sinister strategy might aim not to destroy the competitor, but to cripple its potential forever. This is the concept of informational warfare on a cosmic scale, where the most dangerous thing you can send across the stars is not a weapon but a gift. Imagine our future scientists finally decode a complex signal from a distant star. It is not a greeting, but a trove of seemingly miraculous data, a detailed blueprint for a technology that promises unlimited clean energy, or a cure for all disease, or a method for faster-than-light travel. The temptation to build it would be irresistible. We would celebrate it as the greatest discovery in history, a benevolent hand reaching out to lift us up. But what if the blueprint contains a hidden flaw, a subtle error in its fundamental physics that only manifests once the device is activated at full scale? Instead of a starship engine, it becomes a bomb that devastates our planet. Or worse, it functions perfectly, but its operation produces a unique energy signature that acts as a homing beacon, broadcasting our location with a clarity our primitive radio never could. The gift is not a helping hand, but the ultimate bait. It exploits a civilization's curiosity and ambition, turning its own drive for progress into the instrument of its downfall. This is a hunter who does not fire a bullet but leaves a poisoned apple in the forest, knowing that a hungry traveler will eventually find it and take a bite. The silence we observe could be the result of civilizations that took the bait and were silently erased, leaving no visible crater, just a sudden end to their transmissions. Another insidious method is resource draining or containment. Why destroy a promising biosphere when you can render it permanently harmless? A supremely advanced civilization might deploy subtle technologies to manipulate a star, gently increasing its solar wind or altering its magnetic field in a way that slowly but irrevocably strips away a planet's atmosphere over millions of years. To the inhabitants, it would look like a natural, if unfortunate, climatic shift, a slow drift into a runaway greenhouse effect or a global ice age. The planet becomes a frozen or barren rock, its biological potential neutered long before intelligence ever emerges. The hunter preserves the raw materials of the system for later use, while permanently solving the problem of a future competitor. It is cosmic gardening of the most cold-blooded kind, pruning the weed before it even sprouts. Perhaps the most profound manipulation targets the laws of physics themselves, not universally but locally. Some theories in speculative physics suggest that an ultra-advanced civilization might learn to tweak the fundamental constants in a region of space, creating a subtle barrier or a slow zone. Within this region, the speed of light could be artificially lowered, making interstellar travel and communication utterly impractical. A budding civilization inside this bubble would find itself in a prison of its own star system, forever confined by physics they believe to be natural and universal. They would look up at the stars, dream of reaching them, but find the universe itself conspiring against them, the equations never quite working out. They would die out, lonely and confused, never knowing their cage was built by hands they could never see. This transforms the dark forest from a place of active hunters into a universe pre-sabotaged by ancient architects. We might be living inside such a slow zone right now, our dreams of galactic travel forever doomed not by lack of technology, but by a physics deliberately engineered to keep us contained. Finally, consider a strategy of subtle cultural or cognitive subversion. What if the most effective attack is not on a civilization's body, but on its mind? A signal could be broadcast containing not a blueprint, but a mimetic virus, a self-replicating idea engineered to be irresistibly compelling. It could be a perfect, logical proof that the universe is fundamentally meaningless, or a beautiful but nihilistic religion that glorifies self-annihilation, or a suite of virtual reality experiences so fulfilling that a species abandons material ambition entirely. The civilization would slowly turn inward, its drive to explore and expand extinguished not by force but by persuasion. They would become a quiet, contemplative, and ultimately harmless species, content to live out their days in philosophical bliss or digital paradise, posing no threat to anyone. The forest stays dark because the most dangerous creatures have been convinced to lay down their weapons and sing lullabies instead. These alternative mechanisms are quieter, slower, and far more patient than a relativistic strike. They leave no obvious scars on the cosmos. A planet might still orbit its star, its cities might even stand, but its light of ambition has been permanently dimmed. When we gaze at the silent stars, we might not be looking at graveyards, but at countless prisons, hospitals, and monasteries, their inhabitants subdued by methods so subtle we would never recognize them as an attack. The true horror of the dark forest may not be the sudden flash of destruction, but the slow, gentle closing of a door we never even knew was there. The forest is not the only terrifying landscape painted by the Fermi Paradox. While the dark forest warns of hunters, other solutions to the great silence conjure monsters of a different kind, beings so advanced their indifference to us is absolute. These are not predators in the dark, but entities that have moved beyond the physical realm we inhabit, leaving us behind in a universe we mistakenly think is empty. One such idea is the transcension hypothesis. This theory suggests that a civilization's ultimate destiny is not to conquer the stars, but to leave them behind entirely. As technology advances, a species might learn to upload its consciousness into vast, complex computational substrates, perhaps at the quantum level or within the fabric of space-time itself. In this digital utopia, reality is limitless, customizable, and free from the frailties of the physical body. A transcended civilization would have no need for interstellar ships or Dyson spheres. Its entire existence, its art, its exploration, its very essence would unfold within a boundless simulated universe of its own creation. From our perspective, they simply vanish. Their planets go quiet, their stars unused, because they have graduated to a higher plane of existence, one we cannot perceive or access. We are like ants on the ground, oblivious to the humans living in skyscrapers high above, whose lives no longer intersect with ours at all. The silence is not strategic, it is evolutionary. We are not being hidden from, we have been left behind. Then there is the estivation hypothesis, a concept as chilling in its patience as the dark forest is in its paranoia. The word estivation refers to a state of dormancy, like an animal sleeping through a hot, dry summer. This theory proposes that advanced civilizations are not hiding from each other, but from the heat death of the universe itself. They have calculated that the most efficient use of energy and computational resources is to enter a state of profound hibernation, waiting for the far, far future when the universe cools to a temperature ideal for maximum information processing. Right now, the cosmos is still warm from the Big Bang, like a computer running hot. Performing complex computations in this heat is wasteful. So, these cosmic sleepers have powered down their civilizations, perhaps converting their planets into supercomputers set to awaken in trillions of years when the background temperature of the universe is near absolute zero. To them, our entire history, from the first single-celled organism to our current radio noise, is a brief, insignificant flicker in the deep cosmic night, a momentary spark they sleep right through. We shout into the void, but the only listeners are dreaming of a colder, more efficient future. Finally, we return to a gentler, yet still unsettling possibility, the zoo hypothesis, or the idea of a galactic nature preserve. Here, advanced civilizations are aware of us, but they follow a strict non-interference protocol. Earth is a protected planet, a living museum, or a controlled experiment. They observe us from a distance, ensuring we develop naturally, free from outside influence. This is not born of malice, but of a paternalistic or scientific curiosity. The silence is not a survival tactic, but a policy. The forest is not dark because of hunters, but because the park rangers have put up a one-way mirror around our clearing. We gaze out, seeing only our own reflection, while unseen eyes watch our every struggle and triumph. This might sound comforting, but it carries a profound loneliness. It means our dreams of contact, of joining a galactic community, are naive. We are not participants in the cosmos, we are exhibits. Our greatest achievements, our art, our science, our love, are all just data points in someone else's study. The moment we become too disruptive, or perhaps the moment we develop technology that could threaten the preserve, the zookeepers might decide to intervene, not to destroy us, but to reset our development, or simply turn off the lights in our exhibit. Placing the dark forest alongside these other monsters reveals a spectrum of cosmic horror. The dark forest fears an active, malignant intelligence. The transcension and eastivation hypotheses posit an intelligence so advanced we are beneath its notice, like bacteria to a god. The zoo hypothesis suggests an intelligence that is aware but deliberately aloof, treating us as pets or specimens. In each case, the result is the same, a profound and unbreakable silence. But the emotional texture is different. Is it more terrifying to be hunted, to be ignored, or to be cared for like a child in a cage you cannot see? The answer depends on what you find more frightening: a universe that is actively dangerous, one that is Chinese letter indifferent, or one that is meticulously controlled. Perhaps the true monster is not a specific alien behavior, but the sheer scale of possibilities, each one rendering our calls into the void meaningless in its own uniquely devastating way. This leaves us at the most critical crossroads our species has ever faced. The silent stars offer no guidance, only a reflection of our own choices. So what is our next move? We have three strategic paths, each with profound implications for our survival and our soul. The first is the path of deliberate silence, to become the cautious listener in the dark forest. This means more than just ending deliberate METI broadcasts. It would require a global, long-term commitment to minimizing our electromagnetic footprint. We could shift planetary communication from powerful radio and television broadcasts to fiber optic cables and directed beams. We might design future space probes to be electromagnetically quiet, and even consider shielding Earth's persistent radio leakage with advanced technology we do not yet possess. The goal is to dim the beacon we have already lit, to fade back into the cosmic background static. This is the strategy of ultimate caution, prioritizing survival over curiosity. It accepts that the universe may be dangerous and that our greatest asset is our obscurity. Yet it is also a path of profound isolation, a voluntary withdrawal from the cosmic conversation before it has even begun. It means giving up the dream of contact, perhaps forever, to guarantee a future of quiet, lonely safety on our pale blue dot. The second path is the mirror opposite, a headlong rush into the light. This strategy says that if the forest is dark, we must become its most formidable hunter before anyone else can. We would accelerate our expansion with a singular, relentless focus. We would pour our resources into becoming a multi-planetary species, then a multi-stellar one, building Dyson swarms and von Neumann probes not as explorers, but as the infrastructure of a defensive empire. We would listen not for friends, but for targets, for the faint radio whispers of younger civilizations that might one day threaten our dominion. This path embraces the dark forest logic completely, choosing to become the predator to avoid ever being prey. It trades our current vulnerability for future supremacy, but at a horrific moral cost. It means dedicating our civilization to a perpetual state of paranoid vigilance and preemptive violence. We would sacrifice our humanity to secure our survival, becoming the very cosmic horror we now fear. The third path is the greatest gamble of all, to bet on a different kind of universe. This strategy rejects the axioms of cosmic paranoia and places a wager on hope, or perhaps on a more sophisticated reality. It argues that a civilization that survives long enough to master the stars may also master its own destructive impulses. Perhaps the truly advanced are not hunters, but gardeners or philosophers, or beings who have solved the problem of scarcity through means we cannot yet conceive. This path involves continuing, and even carefully increasing, our efforts to listen and to signal, but doing so with exquisite cleverness. Instead of shouting our location, we might broadcast complex mathematical puzzles or universal concepts of beauty and logic, designed not to say we are here, but to say we are wise. We would look for signatures not of expansion but of stability, for signs of civilizations that have matured beyond predation. This is a bet that the great silence is a curtain, not a wall, and that behind it waits a community that values wisdom over warfare. The risk, of course, is catastrophic. If we are wrong, our carefully crafted messages become the perfect lure, drawing the attention we sought to attract with intelligence. We would have played the most high-stakes game in history and lost everything. This is our species' ultimate strategic dilemma, hidden in plain sight behind the quiet night sky. Do we hide, do we conquer, or do we reach out with open but trembling hands? The choice is not just about technology or politics, it is about identity. It asks who we want to be as a civilization and what kind of universe we are willing to believe in. Our answer will write the next chapter of human history, and it may well determine whether there are any chapters left to write at all. Perhaps the deepest terror of the dark forest is not its answer, but the question it forces upon us. If this theory holds even a grain of truth, it suggests something profoundly bleak about the very nature of intelligence in the cosmos. It implies that consciousness, when it reaches a certain level of self-awareness and capability, inevitably breeds a specific kind of paranoia. The drive to survive, when combined with the power to destroy, creates a universe where trust is a fatal flaw and cooperation is a mathematical impossibility. This is a chilling indictment. It proposes that the great filter is not a technological barrier, but a psychological one woven into the fabric of sentience itself. We look for aliens out there, but the dark forest holds up a mirror, asking if the most dangerous trait in the universe is the one we already possess. Is conflict an inevitable product of consciousness? Our own history offers a grim case study. On Earth, intelligence evolved through competition, through predator and prey, through tribes fighting for territory and resources. Our brains, so capable of love and art, are also hardwired for threat detection, for us versus them thinking, for preemptive strikes against perceived dangers. We have built beautiful civilizations, but we have also repeatedly turned our greatest tools into weapons against each other. The atomic bomb is not an anomaly, it is the logical endpoint of a competitive intelligence mastering its environment. The dark forest theory simply takes this earthly pattern and projects it onto a galactic scale. It assumes that every mind that looks up at the stars will carry with it the same evolutionary baggage, the same primal calculus that says a potential rival is a threat to be neutralized. In this view, peace is not the natural state of intelligent beings. It is a fragile, temporary condition, constantly undermined by the fear of what the other might do tomorrow. This leads to a heartbreaking possibility. What if the universe is not empty of friends, but empty of survivors who chose friendship? Imagine two civilizations emerging in neighboring star systems at roughly the same time. They both develop radio telescopes. They detect each other's early signals. A wave of excitement washes over both worlds. They start the long, slow work of decoding, of building a shared language. But beneath that excitement, in the quiet rooms of power, the military strategists and the paranoid philosophers begin their work. They run the equations. They consider the technological explosion. They dwell on the chain of suspicion. Decades pass as the first careful messages travel between the stars. And in that time, the fear grows. It becomes a political force. Factions arise, arguing that the only safe path is to strike first to protect their children's future. The voices for peace seem naive, dangerously optimistic. Eventually, one civilization, gripped by that universal fear, makes the choice. It launches a relativistic projectile on a centuries-long journey. The other civilization, monitoring the skies, detects the launch. Their own paranoia is confirmed, and they retaliate in kind. both worlds are destroyed, not because they were evil, but because they were afraid, and because they believed the other must be afraid too. The silence that follows is not just the absence of sound, it is the absence of a future that could have been. It is the death of a potential galactic culture, strangled in its cradle by a logic that mistrusts its own reflection. So what does this say about us right now as we stand at this precipice? The dark forest forces a moral and existential reckoning. It asks if we are doomed to repeat this tragic pattern, to export our deepest fears into the heavens. Or is there something within intelligence that can overcome its own darkest impulses? We see glimmers of this on Earth, in our slow, painful progress toward global institutions, in our shared scientific endeavors, in the simple act of choosing dialogue over destruction. These are not our default settings, they are hard-won victories against our own nature. Perhaps the true test for a civilization is not whether it can master nuclear fusion or build starships, but whether it can master the fear inside itself. The Great Silence might be the graveyard of those who failed that test, but it could also be the quiet before a different kind of dawn, a waiting period for a species mature enough to say, "We heard the logic of the forest and we chose a different path." We chose to listen, not to hunt. We chose to be the anomaly. The stars are silent, but they are also waiting, and what they are waiting for might not be a signal of power, but a proof of wisdom. But the logic of the forest is not a prison sentence, it is a puzzle. If every civilization fears the unknown intentions of the other, could we design a message that eliminates that fear? This is the search for a cosmic handshake, a way to signal across the light years that we understand the game, and we wish to lay down our weapons. The challenge is immense, but thinkers have proposed a flicker of hope, a concept we might call cosmic cryptography. The goal is not to say hello, but to prove we are not a threat. Imagine crafting a signal that does two seemingly impossible things. First, it demonstrates we have deduced the dark forest principles ourselves, showing we are mature enough to recognize the danger. Second, it provides verifiable proof that we pose no competitive risk. One theoretical method involves sharing a fundamental scientific discovery, but in a very specific way. We could broadcast the complete blueprint for a powerful technology, like a working fusion reactor or a medical panacea, but with a critical component missing. The message would state that the final piece, the key to making it function, is held in a secure location on Earth and will only be transmitted upon receipt of a peaceful response. This does several things. It shows immense generosity and trust, offering a gift of immense value upfront. It proves we have advanced technology, making us less of a primitive, unpredictable variable. And it creates a mutual stake, a shared secret that requires cooperation to unlock. They get the cure for disease, we get proof they are willing to talk. It turns first contact into a collaborative decryption, not a shouting match. Another, more abstract idea is to send a message that is purely mathematical and philosophical, one that outlines the dark forest dilemma itself. We would transmit the logical steps, the axioms of survival and growth, the chain of suspicion, in the universal language of mathematics and logic. The message would conclude not with a plea, but with a solution, a proposed treaty. We could suggest a mutual non-aggression pact sealed by the laws of physics. For instance, we might propose that both civilizations redirect a small percentage of their star's output into a mutually observable energy signature, a cosmic handshake that would be astronomically expensive to fake and would serve as a permanent, visible guarantee of peaceful intent. If either civilization broke the pact and attacked, the handshake signature would vanish, alerting the other immediately. It uses the universe's own constraints to build trust. The most profound signal of peace, however, might be one of radical transparency and vulnerability. We could broadcast not just our knowledge, but our entire biological and cultural blueprint, our DNA sequences, our historical records, our art, our failures, and our hopes. We would be handing them the equivalent of a planet-sized white flag, saying, Here is everything we are. You now know us better than we know ourselves. You can see we have no hidden weapons, no secret ambitions for galactic conquest. We are just curious creatures wishing to learn, not to own. This is the ultimate gamble on empathy. It assumes that any civilization advanced enough to receive and decode such a vast transmission would also be advanced enough to recognize the profound courage and trust it represents. It makes us utterly defenseless in the hope that our defenselessness is our greatest shield. Yet, even these elegant ideas crash against the cold rocks of distance and time. A message proving we understand the forest's rules still takes centuries to arrive. The civilization that receives it is a century older, and its politics may have changed. Our generous gift of technology could be seen not as an offering, but as a demonstration of our dangerous potential, accelerating their decision to strike. Our radical transparency could be viewed as naivety, marking us as easy prey. The chain of suspicion is a powerful demon to exercise. Perhaps the only true handshake is one of mutual, sustained observation over millennia. We might detect another civilization and simply watch them for thousands of years, studying their art, their scientific progress, their political cycles. If they, too, are watching us with equal patience, never broadcasting, never threatening, a slow, silent understanding might grow. We would see them overcome their own internal conflicts, perhaps even see them dismantle their weapons of mass destruction. They would see us do the same. This unspoken, patient vigil could build a foundation of trust no single message ever could. It would be a relationship built not on words, but on consistent, peaceful behavior across epochs. In this scenario, the first active signal is not a hello, but an invitation sent after 10,000 years of mutual study, a simple mathematical proof that says, "We have watched and we believe you are also peaceful." Shall we finally speak? Is this possible, or is it a beautiful fantasy, a dream of diplomacy in a realm where the only law is shoot or be shot? The dark forest offers a brutal clarity, but it may not be the only logic in the cosmos. By searching for a way to signal our peaceful intent, we are not just looking for aliens, we are making a statement about ourselves. We are declaring that if we ever hold the power of life and death over another world, we hope to choose a different path. The search for the handshake is ultimately a test of our own humanity, projected onto the silent stars. If we can conceive of a way to build trust across an abyss of fear, then perhaps we are already beginning to pass the greatest filter of all. We have walked through a forest of shadows and silence, following a trail of logic that leads to one of the most unsettling visions of reality ever conceived. The dark forest theory does not solve the Fermi Paradox with a whisper, but with a gunshot echoing in the void. It offers a compelling, terrifyingly elegant answer to the great silence. The universe is not empty. It is likely teeming with life, a crowded gallery of observers. But every observer has learned the same brutal lesson: to be seen is to be killed. So they hide, listening intently in the dark, ready to snuff out any new light that flickers to life. This is not a universe of loneliness, but of profound, strategic quiet. Our own century of noise may be a dangerous anomaly in a cosmos that has selected for stealth over song. So where does this leave us here on our tiny, glowing world? The stars above are no longer just points of light, they are potential eyes watching from an impenetrable blackness. The choice before our civilization carries the weight of eternity. Do we learn to be silent, or do we dare to speak? The answer will define not just our future, but the very story of life in this galaxy. Tell us what you believe we should do. Should humanity hide or reach out? In the comments below. And if these cosmic mysteries haunt your thoughts, subscribe for more journeys to the edge of understanding.